a time and age where if somebody had mental health issues and let's just say they were acting out or acting unresourcefully, they would be referred to as crazy, potentially imprisoned in some way, shape or form, and almost penalized for being ill. If your spirit was unhealthy, then it would show in your mind. Then your mind would be unhealthy, you'd have unhealthy thoughts, it would show in your body. And then your body would be unhealthy and get sick. And that's what I call the human dashboard. My life completely crashed in 2003. I had one of the biggest breakdowns, in my whole life. I had suicidal thoughts. I was in a complete masterlessness state. I had nothing. My life just collapsed.
Hello everybody and welcome to another Martial Mind Power podcast, and on today's episode we're going to be talking about mental health. And today obviously we have Sifu Lak Loi. Lax, hope you're good and well.
I'm very well, thank you. And it's wonderful to share another podcast with our viewers and listeners as well. So here we are talking about mental health today, huh?
Definitely. So let's get straight into it. And how do we define like mental health? Like, it's become a big topic recently. People are talking about it. I personally feel it's been around for ages under other kind of names and kind of synergistic links, but it's become more in the forefront recently. Like, how would we define what mental health is?
Well, let me just pick up on something that you just said there. It's come recently into the media light as the coined term mental health. I mean, the thing is, as long as human beings have been around, they've had physical health, they've had mental health, they've had emotional health, and they've had spiritual health. Now it's just a matter of being aware of it and recognizing it and then working on it. A lot of people, especially in today's society in the Western world, focus predominantly on physical health, right? They'll go out, engage in exercise and sports and maybe attend a gym or go swimming and so on. So, people are aware that as part of their lifestyle to stay fit and healthy, that physical exercise is important, as well as physical exercise. Nutrition is even more important, right? And a lot of people don't realize on a physical level that, the exercise accounts for about 20% of physical health, right? The food accounts for 80% of your physical health, right? So it's important to eat healthy and exercise, okay, to keep your physical biology running effectively and optimally. Mm-hmm. Then the second aspect is your mental health. Now, the mental health has always been there. It's just that, over the ages, it's been recognized as different things. There was a time and age where if somebody had mental health issues, and let's just say they were acting out or acting unresourcefully, they would be referred to as crazy, potentially imprisoned in some way, shape or form, and almost penalized for being ill. And this is what the mental health coinage of words is helping to break that stigma, that actually, do you know what? This is something that is real. This is something that needs to be recognized. It needs attention, and then we need to put some healing around that. So how do you do that?
So basically, the state of mind somebody is in is very important to identify, and that's what we're referring to when we talk about mental health. Is the state of somebody's mind. Absolutely,
right? It's the health of somebody's mind, and that doesn't just refer to the physical brain, right? Because there's already a plethora of studies that allude to the fact that the mind is a lot bigger than the mushy, gelatinous clump of, fat and electrical signals in your skull. It's a lot bigger than that, and the things that it can do are still unexplainable. Right? Things, I think neuroscientists have, definitely nailed the ability to be able to monitor and locate where certain activity happens within your brain when you think of certain things or you feel certain emotions, and smell when you smell, and so on. You can tell which parts of the brain that's happening in, but you still can't explain the mind. The mind is a lot bigger than that, right? So mental health is everything to do with your neurology, it's everything to do with your cognitive functions, it's everything to do with the health around the mind space, if I was to use that word.
Yeah. So it's like we alluded to this in one of our previous topics when we were talking about mind, body, spirit, and how the body is the physical element, the spirit is the kind of unknown and unseen, and then the mind is the bit that sits in the middle that potentially connects like a bridge between those two sides of it. So when we talk about mental health, we're basically talking about the body, isn't it? Because obviously the brain is part of the body, right? And whatever's going on inside the brain in terms of how we think, how we feel, the thoughts that come up, they're not really, not necessarily spiritual in a sense, but they're more functions of the brain, isn't it? So when we talk about mental health, are we talking more about the body and brain function?
Well, I like to say the mind is a gateway between your physical body and your spiritual body. Okay, and I'm just kind of like stacking it this way. Body being lower, the mind being in the middle, and the spirit being higher than that. Okay, whereas obviously the spirit is in you and around you and everywhere, right? Now, when we talk about spirit, well, we're talking about energy. Okay. Now, the martial arts, being a martial arts podcast, the thing about martial arts, traditionally, the ancient secret of martial arts is all down to Wu Qi, right? Wu Qi being the original source, the great emptiness, okay? So what is that? Well, that's the spiritual space, right? That is the ether. That is the one consciousness. That is God, right? That is this energy that we are swimming in, this ocean of consciousness that we're in, right? That we ultimately, martial arts is trying to help us connect to. Now, the traditional Chinese martial arts, what they used to do was they used to help you cultivate, and this is something that we spoke about before on the previous podcast, is but you cultivate your own spirit, so then you can help heal somebody else's spirit. You cultivate your own mind, so you can help heal somebody else's mind. You help cultivate your bodies, you can heal somebody else's body. And then they teach you combat, and then you can teach other people combat, okay? And that's the way it goes down, top down, right? In our Western world, we start with our physical body first, then we may or may not care about anybody else's physical body. We kind of almost stuck in ourselves, right? And if you want to learn combat, you just go and learn combat at the physical level, and that's it. It starts there, stops there, doesn't go any further. You miss the whole stack. You're only ever going to be quarter of a martial artist. So when we're talking about martial arts, actually what you're talking about is a whole stack. Connecting to Wu Qi is the ultimate goal, right? This is why on my book Original Truth, right, we've got the Tao symbol there, right? And the reason for that is that literally represents the great emptiness. Okay. On the second book, I've got the Tory, and this is the gate to your higher self, right? To your Wu Qi. Okay. This is what it's all about. We've got master your life, right? And we've got here I'm trying to do this backwards here, right? You got the yin yang, which is using the martial mindset to cultivate self-mastery, right? So what are we talking about? We are talking about using the martial mindset. We're talking about using martial philosophy. We're talking about using martial arts physically to help cultivate our body so that we can cultivate our mind and then reach spirit, right? So when it comes to mental health, right, I think, and I know from my first-hand experience, is that in order to align your body, your mind, and your spirit, you've got to do some work in that space. And in order to do the work in that space, you've got to align all of those. That stack has to be aligned. So just like you work out your body to become fit and healthy, you got to work out your mind to become fit and healthy, and you got to work out your spirit to become fit and healthy. And as the ancient martial artists used to start with the spirit and go downwards, the reason they used to go downwards was because if your spirit was unhealthy, then it would show in your mind. Then your mind would be unhealthy. You'd have unhealthy thoughts. It would show in your body. And then your body would be unhealthy and get sick. And that's what I call the human dashboard, right? Like imagine you're driving a car and your fuel light comes on. It's saying that, you need to fill up, right? You're out of fuel. You can't carry on for much longer. You probably have, I think most cars have a 30-mile contingency in there, right? So once that light comes on, you've got about 30 miles thereabouts, right? Before to get to a petrol station or a gas station for our fellow Americans, right? To fill up and you can carry on. Otherwise, you're going to run out of fuel and you're going to get stranded, okay? And then you've got different
problems. The other way as well, right? Because if the body isn't healthy, then it doesn't really allow you to connect with your mind and body, with your spirit as well, because it just comes in the way of that channeling almost, if you wanted to go down that route.
Absolutely. So let's think about this, right, for a minute, right? So why does the body get unhealthy, right? Why do people become sedentary, right? Because there's some programming in the mind. There's some mental strategy that people have set in their mind to say, I'm not going to exercise. Fuck it. I don't want to. I'm fed up. I'm this, I'm that. So you don't do anything. You become sedentary. You start, taking on this silent, deadly diseases such as diabetes, coronary heart disease, hypertension, and so on, as a consequence of not exercising, right? And obesity as well, right? And then they're silent diseases. They don't happen instantaneously. They happen over time, but they happen as a consequence of you thinking that you don't want to do something. You don't want to engage in physical activity, or so on. But let's put it this way, right? When you're happy, right, and you listen to a happy song, you want to dance, you want to move, right? If the weather's nice outside, you want to go outside, you want to go for a walk, you want to go to the park, right? You want to play, right? Movement is directly linked to your state. Now, a state is binary. It's on or off, and everything in between, right? So happiness, for instance, is funny because a lot of people, strive for happiness. I mean, in Original Truth, there's a chapter in here, and I'd like to share this with you because it's called the Happiness Hoax, right? And the strapline below it is, it's not all about being happy. And, the thing is, happiness, you can switch on or off, right? It's just a state. You listen to a happy song, you get happy. You listen to a sad song in the same, in the space of 15 minutes, right? Or 10 minutes, or however long a happy song and a sad song lasts, you become sad, right? You can change your state like that, right? It's a choice. It's a decision. So too much emphasis upon happiness, which I call it the happiness hoax, is bullshit, right? Your goal shouldn't be to be aim for happiness. Your goal should be to aim for bliss, right? Now, bliss is way above happiness, right? It's a level of serenity. It's a level of harmony. It's a level of peace. It's a level of contentment, okay? But how can you be like that? Now, when we talk about mental health, we're talking about the illnesses and the symptoms that we recognize when somebody's mentally ill, okay? And what does that look like? Well, it looks like, anxiety and depression is the two biggest keywords that you'll hear, right, about mental health. People are anxious, people are depressed, okay? And, there's, that can show up in many different ways.
Hold that thought for a second, Lex. Hold that thought for a second, yeah? Just as a little hook line, right? Before we get to that, like, I just wanted to quickly say, you've been now training in martial arts for how long?
Gosh, man, I started when I was 7. I'm 47 now. I had a break in between, and this last stint of Bruce Lee's martial art I've been doing since 2003. So
So 2003, right? So and because on your journey, not only have you done martial arts, you've also been you've been a personal trainer. So you've looked into the body, nutrition, all those kind of things. You've done NLP, hypnosis, all these kind of brain exercises and understandings, right?
that's right.
So you got a wealth of knowledge and years of experience behind you,
Yeah.
right? And I just wanted to bring that to the forefront, because just in case anybody's listening saying, oh, who are these guys to be talking about mental health and what do they know, or why they're sharing this information? And the reason we're sharing it is because of experience, right? And experience, and the number of students you've trained over the years, the number of things you've seen over those years as well. Like for example, with myself, I've been in the personal development space for over 15 years, right? Yeah. Studying, looking into the mind. Someone is always fascinated and intrigued about how does this work? Like what's going on in the human mind? Why do we think differently, right?
Yeah.
And all of those kind of understandings is what we're bringing to you guys to share, because that's all we can do at the end of the day, share with you what we know. And like Bruce Lee said, take from what's useful and discard what's not, right?
That's
so,
right.
So bringing that back. So, you were saying about anxiety and depression. Before we speak about that, there's almost like I think you can add to this. Is there's two elements to when we talk about mental health. On one side, when we talk about mental health, sometimes it is kind of seen as a almost like negative connotation to it. Right, but on the other side, it's all it really means is the state of somebody's mind, like the health, how healthy or how they're thinking about certain things. Right. On one side, there's an issue when it comes to with trauma, something that's happened that's caused some sort of problem, or there's some sort of deficiencies in the body, right, which can influence your brain and the way you think about things, right? And in those kind of circumstances, it is very important to seek medical help and assistance and that kind of stuff, right? And then on the other side of it, you've got more about perception and thoughts and understanding, because we're never taught how to think, right? And so a lot of things are done on comparisons and stuff like that. That's where when you come into anxiety and depression, because you can share more about this, when you look at the kind of basics of depression and anxiety is more about a future state, like being anxious of something that's about to come, whereas depression is something that we've done in the past and we're holding on to it and we haven't move ahead in a kind of basic format, right? So bringing that now into the forefront about anxiety and depression, let's talk a bit more about that.
Well, before I go into that, first thing, just going back to
the listeners are going to be saying, damn, I want to hear this stuff, stop hooking us.
just going back onto qualifying, right, while we're talking about this, first and foremost, I started my martial arts journey before my great crash, I would say. So my life completely crashed in 2003, and I had one of the biggest breakdowns in my whole life. I had suicidal thoughts. I was in a complete masterlessness state. I had nothing. My life just collapsed. And I've talked about the journey on that in previous podcasts. So I'm not going to bore you with the details. But the point is, I've been there. I've been at the bottom of the barrel, completely full of rage and frustration. And what happens is, when you go through something traumatizing, what happens is you get angry, and one of the things that you do is you develop strategies in your mind, right? And they're momentary thoughts, and all of a sudden you decide, hey, that fucking sounds good, let's go with this. So one of the common things people do is self-sabotage. Okay, so sorry, I got a bit of a cold. So one of the self-sabotage is, you're at the bottom of the barrel, so fuck it, let's just ruin everything else that, is around me. And it's a spiral of destruction. That's what happens. And you hurt everybody around you. It's like as if you were a drug addict, and all your family and friends is just getting swallowed into this black hole because of you're going through something and you don't know how to deal with it. And, you're not prepared to to sort it out. Now, my process happened as a consequence of me going from master lustness and then realizing, actually, do you know what? I had something to live for. And I changed my strategy and I decided, do you know what? I need to heal and then cultivate mastery over the years. And so, Hippocrates famously said, before you heal someone, ask him if he or her is willing to give up the things that made him or her sick. Okay. That's number one. So you have to decide, right, first, whether you're willing, if you're the one that's needed to cultivate and heal from a mental illness, whether you're ready to heal, right? It's a decision. You have to choose. Have you got reason? Pick a reason. It could be any reason. Just pick one, right? Because it's just a choice, right? And you could live a successful, more resourceful life, right? You can make more out of the gift that we've got that we call life. But when you're going through it, you don't care for that. You want to end it. You want to finish it, and or you want to just wallow in. I just say, wallow in your own shit, right? Because that's where your mind is at. I know, I've been there. So you have to make a choice. And the moment you make that choice, everything changes. That one instance. And it's just a second. Because a thought is even less than a second. But it just takes that. You've just got to decide. And then once you have done that, as Hippocrates said, only then, once you're willing to give up the things that are making you sick, only then will you heal. So that's the first thing. And what happened for me was...
Would you say that's the same as acceptance? That's what things are. This is where we are. Now we got to do something different about it.
Well, Prochaska and De Clemente, all right, they created the seven stages of change process. And originally, this 7 stages of change model was designed around giving up smoking. But later on, people realized that actually breaking any habit and reprogramming the mind from one trail of thought or one strategic mind strategy to a new one goes through the same process. And this is the 7 stages. This is first, let's go this way. First one, you got pre-contemplation. You're not aware that there's a problem there, right? So you're not thinking about it, right? Then something happens, right? When you're in that state of unawareness, or you're purposefully being ignorant and choosing not to heed any attention to that, right? Then something happens is you become aware. So you go through a stage of contemplation. Now, contemplation happens out of one or two things: through inspiration, right? Somebody's inspired you, or through some suffering where you've had some kind of shock. Now, if you wanna help somebody, right? You could inspire them. You could try and educate them, or you can give them some shock tactic and give them some home truths. And it depends, if you get through to them, then they'll get into the contemplation stage. Ultimately, you can't force somebody to think anything. It's got to be their choice. Then after contemplation comes preparation. Then people start doing their own research. Then when they become curious, well, you know what, maybe I'm tired of this life. Maybe this life is now, becoming too tiring, too fatiguing. There's no light at the end of this tunnel. Maybe it's time. I do something different. As I say, if you do the same thing, you get the same result. You need to do something different to get a different result, right? So that happens. And so you do the preparation stuff. Then after the preparation, you've got your initiation, right? You start to actually act on doing something. So you got your action. Okay, you take action. Right. So, the preparation might be you're looking for information on how you could deal with things, or how you could live a different life, or what would that new life look like, feel like, hear, sound like, smell like, taste like, and so on. Then you start actioning that. Okay. And actioning means you actually, maybe attend some classes, go to a course, go to a therapist, see a doctor, see a psychiatrist, see an hypnotherapist, whatever it might be, see an energy healer, whatever it might be. Then after that, you've got to then start to maintain it. Okay. Right. So you got to maintain that pattern for a while. Right. And I normally say in the fitness industry, they say that if you stick to one thing for 12 weeks, repeat the same thing time and time again, day in, day out for 12 weeks, 3 months, right, you'll develop a new habit. Okay. But the other 2 points of the 7 are, number 6 is your relapse. Okay. So if you relapse, then you end up going back to not completely the beginning, because you've already in contemplation. You go past contemplation and to contemplate and then react. So you go back to that stage, right? So is that point, and it shouldn't be considered a failure. It's just a lesson, right? So people say, if you're an alcoholic, you fall off the wagon. Yeah, so what? Then jump back on there, all right? And it doesn't have to be the same wagon. Jump on a different wagon. You still move in the same direction you need to be going in, right? And then finally, when you've done it long enough, is termination. Okay, you've completed that cycle. Okay, so this is the 7 stages of change, but it all starts with you. Your mental health, right, starts with you deciding what level of health you want your mind to be in, and your body and your spirit. And it is that simple. But we create strategies. Sometimes the strategies is not our problem. It's not my fault. It's this person and that person, and it's to do with this and that and the other, right? So when somebody's contemplating, somebody's in a state of mental illness, really the thing is, one thing, as Buddha said, is all suffering, everybody suffers, right? And all suffering is related to attachment. So first thing is, what is your attachment? What are you attached to? Are you attached to that feeling of being ill, right? Are you attached to maybe the attention you get by being ill? I know people that have become ill because they wanted to get attention from a loved one, because they weren't getting it any other way. So if they were ill, they would get their sympathy. Okay. And they decide to stay ill. And their health deteriorates because it's not sustainable. And they get iller and iller and iller until, eventually the inevitable. Or along the way, they think, okay, you know what? I can't make that person love me anymore because I can't control that person. That person should love me for who I am. And therefore, I should be who I am. And actually, I want to be healthy. I don't want to be sick anymore. And I want to heal, right? So they decide to change something. Guess what happens? They get better, right? Obviously, it takes work. So, it all boils down to these little strategies you make up in your mind. And it's that moment, that split second when you decide, changes everything.
So we're talking basically there about possible attachment of thoughts, and we're talking about habits that we've created, because anything we do, good or bad, is a habit, right? So if we're going down this state, so we were talking earlier, we were about to go talk about anxiety and depression, which in one side you can say are states of mind, because anxiety is something you are doing, right? Based on a possible future occurrence, which you're not, it's like uncertainty about a future, like, oh no, I've got to go out, this could happen, that could happen, right? And then depression is, like you said, it's almost like being attached to the thoughts and thinking, oh, why did it happen this way? Why couldn't it have been different, and this happened, and that kind of story we're telling ourselves, right? So let's talk a bit about that. So
I think, there was a famous Buddhist monk that actually said, even the Dalai Lama talked about this as well. He said that anxiety is about you worrying about things in the future, and sadness is about you being attached to something unresourceful that happened in the past, and the only thing that you've got left to do is to be in the present, right? Now, being in the present is an interesting one because to become present, you need to go through a process, okay? And that process is one of what in martial arts we call learning the art of dying. Now, this doesn't mean you die. This doesn't mean you commit suicide, right? This is actually to release all of those negative thoughts and emotions that you're attached to, or that are attached to you because of your current mindset and the strategies that you're employing right now, and to release them, right? So the idea of learning the art of dying is to kill those unresourceful thoughts, those unresourceful habits, those unresourceful behaviors that you are currently employing if you've got a mental illness, right? To kill them so that they're dead, they're gone, right? And then you're free, you liberate yourself. So that brings us on to, okay, so how do you do that? So, one of the things that when I went through my trauma and through my depression and suicidal, low point in life, to cultivate my self-mastery was, I had to go through my own process, right? And when I realized that process, actually, it was a gift to me. Why? Because I didn't realize this at the time. But I practiced martial arts to keep my body strong because I was going through complete mental breakdown and life breakdown. And it was what I thought would keep me strong. What I didn't realize and didn't bargain for was actually not only would it keep my body strong, but it would allow me to start cultivating my mind and then cultivating my spirit. Now, the spirit word I didn't use for a long time because I was like, well, I don't know anything about that. Why would I talk about it? The mind I didn't know anything about as well, but I started to get into it and I started to realize, hold on. And then all of a sudden these dots start to join. And then it was after I'd got to a point of, okay, now I rebuilt myself up. It was kind of like the rising phoenix almost. That's when I realized, actually, do you know what? Now I know, right, how to do this. I've discovered a gift. I've discovered these lessons throughout this journey. I have now got an obligation to give that gift away because I don't want other people to suffer like I did. And if somebody is ready to let go of the things that make them sick, then I can help them. Then the materials and the teachings that we've created, the books that I showed you guys, the Master Your Life 9-step modular video course that we've got that covers all of that, can help people. Then why wouldn't I? It's my divine duty to help other fellow human beings, right? To do that, to heal, right? And to step into their truest potential, to step into their Wu Chi, because that's what martial arts was all about. It's a way of life. It's not about kicking and punching the shit out of people, right? And pardon my French, but that's what people think it is, right? It's the ego attachment. And forget about ego for a moment, because when you get sick, when you get punched in the face, that ego disappears very quickly. All right, very, very quickly. You get slapped by a parent, by your mom or something. Guess what? You're gonna feel small. Why? What happens? The ego diminishes in a second, right? Why? Because it's an adjuster. All right. So you just need to kind of give yourself a bit of a slap and put things in a perspective. So it was then that I decided I would train in the healing arts, so hypnosis, hypnotherapy, NLP, mediumship, energy healing, chi abdominal massage healing, and for becoming a personal trainer and CrossFit coach and so on, because I wanted to heal the body, heal the mind, and heal the spirit. Hence why all of those modalities were covered, right? So that was a reason for that. But here's the thing. To heal, you have to be healed. As I say, hurt people, healed people, heal people. So you have to be in that point in the first place, right? So when it comes to, right, being in this position where, this is the now, this is the present, right? This is the future. This is things that you might worry about, be anxious about. And this is the past, things that didn't work out for you, but you're sad and depressed and, potentially still suffering from. How do you center yourself? How do you get back into the middle? How do you learn the art of dying? Well, it all starts with the mind. Okay, it all starts with the mind. If the mind is the thing that's creating the problems, it's the thing that can solve the problems as well. But how do you do it?
Would you say it's the mind, or would you say it's the brain function?
I the thing is, like, bear with me. It's like saying, a brain function is like saying, this is my bicep function, right? My bicep function is to do this and to do this. Is to contract my arm so that I can flex it up. Okay, all right, that's it. All right, your brain function is to control your neurological system within your body, right? So you think a thought and you want your limbs to do a certain thing, okay, right? It's like a muscular action, but it's neurological action. The mind is much greater than that, okay? So what I pick, how I move my hand, what I want to create, if I'm a painter, how I'm going to use my bicep is much bigger than just doing this.
It's
right?
like encapsulation of everything.
Yeah, exactly, right? It's in martial arts, Bruce Lee would call it, you've got the you've got the stage of the art, right? And you got the stage of the artlessness, right? Which is, the art is where you're cultivating the techniques and so on, right? And then the artlessness one is, it just happens, right? And I'll give you another example, right? Like a painter, right? The art stage would be where you need to cultivate the ability to hold a paintbrush, to apply paint to the brush, to apply that to the canvas, and then try and create certain type of effects on the canvas, right? The artlessness stage is the stage where you would create a landscape drawing, a portrait picture of somebody, an abstract painting, a painting, that comes from your mind, right? It's your creation of something that's far greater than just your ability to hold a paintbrush, apply paint to the brush, and apply that to the canvas to create certain effects. It's much bigger than that. You're creating something that's going to communicate a whole new thing to somebody else, right? Now, that's the difference between the brain and the mind, right? Your mind is just so much bigger than that. It's so to heal the mind from illness, we have to learn how to do that. And if I may go into that now, that part of it is where all of the secrets lie. Okay. Now, we've already shared with you the most fundamental point of going from mental illness to mental health. And I mean, we talk about mental health, but actually we're referring to mental illness, right? It's funny, right? We're referring to something that actually it isn't, right? When we say mental health, we're talking about somebody that's mentally unhealthy. So shouldn't we really call it mental unhealth? So anyway, right? Or health, just as a almost a gauge to where are you on that ill to healthy continuum, right? So the key thing is that you need to decide, right, that you want to heal. That's paramount, ultimately paramount. Secondly is, as I said, hurt people, healed people, heal people, is seeking advice, right, and good counsel and coaching from somebody that is in a resourceful state, right? Somebody that's healed, whole, and healthy, okay, right? That can give you the information and the advice and the exercises that you need to cultivate your mind, okay, to health. Back to full health. Okay. Now that person should be qualified. Okay. That person should have a good track record of helping people in a positive manner.
Okay? The knowledge, the understanding.
Absolutely.
And even results with potentially the people that worked with, or they've put people through that. Just like a perfect example is the martial art instructor who trains the students. Right? They're putting them through that kind of pace as well. and because they've gone through it themselves, and if they're a good teacher, they're going to guide their students in a good way, which is, another topic for another conversation.
Absolutely, absolutely. We already talked. I think we mentioned, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. But like you said, that's for another podcast. But so so start with that, and then once you've decided, then you go on that path. Now, I've always said this, right? There's many roads to Edinburgh. Just choose one, right? Which path you're going to choose. I help people to cultivate the body, the mind, and the spirit using a martial arts tool set. Okay, so we use martial arts, physical motion, mental motion, spiritual motion, right? In order to cultivate those aspects, okay, of a person, of a being, okay, so I want to share the 9-step process very, very quickly, okay? So you can kind of get an idea for the process, how it work, how it look, and how would you go through that?
Go from a unhealthy state to a healthy state in
Absolutely.
Thinking, right?
Absolutely. So if you were to decide to to use a martial arts tool set, to cultivate self-mastery. And like I said, self-mastery for me is a coinage of words that encapsulates the body, the mind, and the spirit. Okay, the spiritual aspect of self-mastery, I would also kind of go one step further to say that's actually part of the self-realization aspect of the self. Okay, but when it comes to the initial self-mastery, the body and the spirit, the mind, I would say first of all you got to start with stillness. Okay, this is really your ability to quieten the mind, but your mind will never be 100% quiet, right? Until you get a really advanced spiritual stage, okay? But up until then, the idea of stillness is to be one with your thoughts as they are without being embroiled in the storm, okay?
And that's what you said earlier about, to get into a present state where where you're here right now. As opposed to
right.
When we spoke about where, if you're on a timeline, you could be in the past, or you could be in the future, but if you're here right now, then that's stillness, almost getting present, right?
Absolutely. I call it stillness, and as part of the stillness, right, the thing you need to understand about stillness is not about sitting still in one place, okay? You have sitting stillness, right? You have moving stillness, or what I call stillness in motion, okay? So if you did something like Tai Chi, you did something like yoga, you did something like martial arts, you did something like dance, there is a meditative effect that's happening inside you, outside you, right, as you do that, right?
Yeah.
And that allows you to kind of separate your thoughts, right, from your mind, and you separate you from your mind even further still, because first of all, you're not your body, even though you think you are, right? Imagine it is a garment that you wear. When you die, you drop those garments, right, and they'll decay and decompose in this physical plane, but then your spirit carries on, and it might wear a new set of clothes in a different lifetime, right? So you've got that aspect of things. Second thing is you are not your mind, right? So what does that mean? Well, most people, right, would put their hand up and say, have you ever thought about killing somebody? And most people say, yes, so-and-so pissed me off. Oh, I felt like killing them, right? Did you? That's a whole new question, right? And the outcome to that is most of the time, 99.9% of the time, people say, no, I didn't, right? Why? Because they're not murderers, right? Most people don't want to kill and take human life. They want to preserve and heal and nurture human life, right? So if you did everything your mind thought to make you your mind, then you would have killed a lot of people, right? If you had road rage, you'd have a lot of dead people, right? That whoever ever cut you up in a car or whatever it might be would cease to exist. But obviously you don't do that. Therefore, you are not your mind, right? You might think it, but you are not your mind. So the idea in stillness is you remove. So let me do it so you can see my hands. First of all, you remove yourself from your body, and then you remove yourself from the mind. Okay, and then you kind of like a fly on the wall, looking at your mind and looking at your mind in your body, right, sitting wherever it's sitting.
Could you say that another way of looking at that is just it's like you said, it's becoming aware of what's actually going on in your mind and what thoughts are popping up. And, because there was a good question posed once, is like, where do your thoughts come from? Right?
Yeah.
Like, where do they come from? They're coming from somewhere within yourself. But like you said, most of the time, because we're running in this kind of past present timeline, we're not aware of, and we're running on autopilot as opposed to thinking, well, hang on a minute, what did that thought pop up? What is that about? Why am I acting on this? What's going on here? It's almost like tuning into that as opposed to being like total stillness where nothing exists, right?
Exactly. So, what happens is when you do that is you learn not to be judgmental. Okay. That's one of the side effects, right? Or what I say, the side benefits of practicing stillness. Okay. And you also allow things to just be, allow your thoughts to just be, right? So if you've got a chaotic mind, right, let it be. It's fine. The thing is, watch it. I call it mind cinema, right? It's like watching a movie at the cinema, right? It's just playing and you sit in your seat watching it, eating popcorn, right? Or having a drink, whatever you like to, confection you like, right? But that's what it's like. It's like you're watching your own movie of your mind. Do that, right? So that's stillness, and the practices behind that, we've all heard of mindfulness and meditation and so on. They're all integrated practices as part of that, but they're different levels of meditation. Mindfulness is just an entry-level meditation, right, for the beginner. And then you got meditation, and people say, what kind of meditation do you do? And this is, I think, the most stupid question ever, because a meditation is, how many thoughts can you have? Well, it's infinite, right? So you can have a meditation for an infinite number of thoughts, right? Exactly. So, the meditations depend, right, on what intention you have behind it. Okay. Right. So the program takes you through that so you can kind of understand that. But like I said, there's many different ways, routes to go there, right? Second, right, stage is what I call empty your teacup. Now, this is about opening your mind. Okay. You cannot create a new outcome if you're going to be rigid in the way you think. You have to start allowing for you to take on a new way of being, which means you've got to allow new tea into your empty teacup. Otherwise, you can't put more tea into a full teacup. That's the whole idea, right? So
it's like when you recommend a book to someone, for example, right? And they're like, yeah, cool, yeah, whatever. But it's like that the teacup is full at that moment in time, right? So instead of being like, yeah, whatever, or they think they know what's going on, why not empty that teacup, put it down, pick up a book, and read it and absorb that information, right?
Absolutely. And that's exactly it right there. So opening your mind to new possibilities, right, is about empty your teacup. And again, you can't force somebody to change their mind. It's got to be your decision. Like I said right at the beginning, you've got to be willing to let go of the things that are making you sick in order to make a change, right? I always say all help is self-help. In other words, you must be willing to help yourself, right, to heal, okay? Only then will it happen. And I cannot put enough emphasis on this. When I first started on this healing journey, I really wanted to help people. I was getting frustrated. Why are more people coming to me for help? I can see all these people, are sick. I want to help them. And you want to like shove it down their throat, and you get frustrated. And then you realize in your naivety that actually they are not ready for it. And then you sit back and say, all right, let them come to me. When they come to me, then I'll be able to help them. But they must be in a state where they're ready to receive. Right? And guess what? I am not kidding you. 100% success rate. But if you try and force something on somebody, forget about it. If you're a statistics person and you want 100% success record healing people, then you won't get that. If you're forcing your help on people, all good intentions at heart, I get it, but you won't. You won't create that transformation change. Why? Because they're not ready. Third point.
Sorry, I just wanted to add to that, because when you're saying that, I was just thinking in my mind, right? I was just thinking that it's like when you say, empty your teacup kind of thing, is if you relate to it like a situation that somebody's in, right? There's a whole bunch of thoughts, feelings, emotions that got them to that place in the first place, right?
Yeah.
And that got them into that place. And now we know that they say until you actually like look at that and think, hang on, what am I doing? What's actually got me to this place? Until you're actually ready to look at that and put certain things away and throw them out, empty your teacup,
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to put new habits in place or new thoughts and feelings and emotions,
That's
right?
right.
So it's very important that people look at that and think, hang on a minute, this ain't serving me no more. It's not good for me to be thinking anxiety thoughts because it means I can't go out and enjoy the food I want to eat, for example, or connect with, people I want to meet as opposed to the people I am hanging out with, kind of thing, right?
That's
So
right.
that empty teacup, that's how we can relate to it, is like, okay, what junk or mess or thought situations got us there? Is this really useful for us? Is this just baggage? How do we get rid of this so we can empty that teacup?
Absolutely. 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 I think it's again, it's part of the process, and it's recognizing that. Okay. Which leads us on to the third point, which is what I call possess an eagle eye. And this is really about, I like to say, don't look, see. Now, if I use an example of my son, if I say, "Hey, can you get something from the cabinet?" He'll go looking for it. He won't see it. It'll be right in front of his nose. Right under his nose. Right, right. So you have that. You have, if you're looking for a partner, right? You look for a partner. You're looking hard. You don't find your partner. But it's when you think, sod it, man. I'm not looking anymore. And then bang, you just notice, you see what you see, and there he or she is, right? And that's how it happens. It's normally when people are not looking and they just see things for what they are. So possess an eagle eye is really about becoming perceptive, right? It's really about seeing, not looking. Looking is training, but seeing, right?
It's the famous saying our dear friend Marilyn comes up with, right? Notice what you notice.
No, yeah, absolutely. It's always about noticing what you're noticing. It's just having that awareness around things that are happening inside you and outside of you, and tuning into that.
No, definitely. It's like, like just to share, for example, it's like sometimes you're going about doing something, right? And you're doing something, but there's this niggly feeling or thought, something inside you, like, it's like you had a conversation, for example, with someone and they mention a book as an example, right? And you've gone away, but that name of that book keeps coming up in your mind. You keep thinking about it for some reason. That is you noticing, notice what you notice. It's becoming aware of what you've just, hang on, what are you picking up here? Have you actually paid any attention to that?
That's right.
That's another element of it, right?
That's right. I mean, it's also linked to our reticular activated system, right? Which is, if you, let's just say you buy a new car, right? You buy a blue car, okay? What's going to happen is as you drive on the road, you're going to start noticing every single blue car as you're driving. And you'll be like, wow, there's so many blue cars out there. I didn't realize. I never noticed all these blue cars. Well, the reason for that is because your brain is now fixated on blue cars, and it's going to pick up and send you a signal saying blue, 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 right? And you'll see these blue cars everywhere. But they were always there. You just didn't pay any notice and didn't have any meaning in your life. So it's really about, once you create that awareness, you create that perceptiveness, then you'll start seeing things for what they are, right? Without you trying too hard, okay? And then, we go on to stage 4, which is what I call think and become. Mm-hmm. Now, this is, a lot of my work was initially inspired by Dr. Napoleon Hill's work. He was a famous writer of the book called Think and Grow Rich. And you, my dear brother JT, was the one that recommended I read that. And this was, good, God knows how many years ago now, well over a dozen years ago now. Mm-hmm. And I remember this one key statement stuck in my mind about Napoleon Hill, and that was what the man can conceive and believe he can achieve. Now, this is think and become is really based on that, and the idea is you need to get yourself into a state of believing that whatever you want to achieve, you can, right? And you need to think success to be success. But there's a process behind that, and we go through the process. behind that to really achieve that thing that you are aiming for. Without going into that right now, the strategies and the process that we go through as part of that is detailed, and it's quite simple because there's 4 key components to that. But I encourage people that are interested in that to go and have a look at that chapter, and it's chapter 4, Think and Become, which will take you into that. But ultimately, the end result of that is believe, right? Believe. But there's some things around that you also need to do, okay, in order to bolster that, right? And
I remember one of my mentors talking about that some time ago, and he said, like, if you listen to that statement, it's very important the order in which it's said, because it's wherever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. So the idea has to actually be able to go in the mind, the brain in the first place. It's like what you're saying, right? It's like, notice what you notice, bring it into your mind in the first place, and then when you can believe it, and it becomes like almost, that's possible, you can achieve it.
That's right. And the only thing I'd like to add to that is, belief on its own is useless. So there has to be action, right?
Really?
It has to be action, all right? So you have to take massive action, right, to get massive results. You get massive results, it reinforces your beliefs. You're going to take even more massive action. And it's actually, instead of a spiral of destruction, this is a spiral of what I would call spiral of creation. Okay. It's the complete antithesis to that. Okay. So it's important that, belief is one thing. You can't just, sit on your laurels or sit in your room or wherever you are and be complacent that just by believing something is going to happen. You have to move towards it. You have to put some energy into it, right? You can put your mind energy into it, right? You can put your spiritual energy into it, but you also need to put physical energy into it as well, okay? Because in order to draw that towards you, you've got to act towards it, okay? Then the 5th step is what I call wata, okay? And wata obviously is Bruce's ki sound, okay? When he hits something, he makes that noise. And really what it talks about is conquering your fears, right? And the idea is the things that stop it.
Like you said it in the workshop.
Hey?
Say it like you said it in the workshop once.
Oh, the actual title for this step?
The ki, say it. Say the way you said it in the workshop.
Ki. So the actual teaching behind this?
No.
Right. So what that is interesting, because Bruce uses ki. They call it the cries of war, or the scream of war. That's what ki means, and there is a physiological mechanism behind that. And I truly believe Bruce Lee knew what he was doing when he was doing this. And really, it is tapping into you understanding your fear system, okay, your adrenal system, and using that, right, to not be fearful of the fear itself, but using the energy that fear is creating, which is what the adrenal dump is a whole kind of like, almost like a NOS being injected into your body, right, for instantaneous fuel, right, to fight, fly, or freeze, right, to you, rather than fight, right, rather than, because you can't always fight, it's not always a combative situation, right? Or even if it's a non-combative situation, say in a work or an education establishment or with your partner, you don't want to fight, right? Always. It's not always about running away, your flight. It's not always about freezing, because sometimes that's also not the best response. But it's about converting that energy and using it in a positive way, okay? And that's what that's all about. So conquering your fears. And like I said, is we are scared. We fear itself. And that's what stops us. We get in our own way.
I say that the reason I said to shout it out was because I encourage you guys to try that, right? Just do it. See what happens when you do that. You'll feel your whole body, it's like you'll feel it. And then on the other side is somebody who hears it will also feel it as well, right? So it's about bringing almost that whole thing alive within yourself. and feeling it. That's why I wanted you to shout it out, Alex.
Right. No, absolutely. So, yeah, like JT said, give it a shot. But your adrenal response that's taking place as a consequence of you getting scared is something that you can control. Right now, sometimes you can't control when that happens because it's an autonomous response, right? It's involuntary. It happens by itself. So if something scares you, that's going to kick off. But the thing is, most people are not aware of the sensation of the adrenaline, a physiological response in the body, and start to kind of really behave unresponsively or behave unresourcefully, right? So you don't really put the best side forwards. I've seen people in critical situations. For example, I was in a restaurant, and I remember there was a gentleman with his family, his wife and two boys, in a ceviche restaurant, a fish restaurant, and a bone got stuck in his throat. And the whole restaurant froze. The waiters froze. The manager in the restaurant froze. Everyone. Thing was, I'm used to being in a fear situation, and my instant reaction was calm, go up, Heimlich maneuver, and that bone popped out. I didn't see it pop out, but I knew it popped out because the guy could breathe. And it is in that moment in time, this whole what I call martial mind power, using the martial mindset and the power that it embodies is there to save lives. It's to save your life, to cultivate your life, your body, your mind, your spirit, but also other people. You understand your fear response when you're in a situation like that, whether it's a loved one, a family member, for instance, a child, or a fellow human being, or even animal, right, in the world, you'll have a way to deal with it calmly, right? You won't freak out. And that's what happens. People freak out. So that's what Wata is teaching us, right? And then the sixth step is what I call honestly express yourself. So this is based on one of Bruce's quotes. I mean, obviously the book is inspired by Bruce Lee and the whole process, and that's really the art that kind of got me where I got to. And honestly express yourself is really about you being authentic to yourself. The problem is, right, people that are in an unresourceful state don't say what they mean, therefore they never mean what they say, right? So you end up in a loop, a vicious circle. The secret to it is, how can you be authentically yourself, right? But still not piss people off, still not upset people, right? And this part of the process is really about your communication. And you also not only just communication with others, but in order to communicate with others authentically, you need to have a communication with yourself. You need to understand yourself. So honestly expressing yourself is, first of all, being honest with who you are. You have to know yourself before you know others, right? You have to know yourself before you know your enemy in combat, right? Otherwise, how are you going to fight someone if you don't know how to control yourself, right? In this case, we're not talking about always combat. Like, martial arts, people put too much emphasis on combat. And fighting, it's not always about fighting. We already said, you got the fighting part of it, you got the healing part of it, right? The two sides of the coin, you can't separate them. The coin is indivisible.
And what's interesting about that, what you just said there, is like when you talk about combat, for example. So when you relate it back to like mental health, for example, the situation that you're going through is almost like a combat scenario in itself. Yeah, if you're going up against depression, you're going up against anxiety. If you don't know yourself, right? Like, how am I going to deal with it? How can I get into a resourceful state? How are you going to combat those situations and scenarios, right? That's so right. It's good to know what these things are, these states are, these issues, what they are, how they come about, and then how you can actually deal with them with the resources you have within yourself, right?
That's right. And, something really important happens when you honestly express yourself. Two things, right? One, you have integrity, right? You are integrous to yourself, right? That means no matter what, right, you'll maintain your own integrity. This doesn't mean you have to fight to maintain your integrity. It means you act integriously, and you'll stick to your own virtues, right? And the second one is you have congruency. This means you have alignment between your body, your mind, and your spirit, right? So nothing can put that at the whack. And if it does shift slightly, you can put it back in because you know where your center is, right? It's really important.
Another example of that is like comparisons. For example, when we make comparisons of our life compared to other people, because some people have these situations, right? They're looking at their life in comparison to other people and then feeling sad and depressed and anxious about these situations, and they're making this comparison, but the comparison isn't you. It's not being authentic, because their life is their life. They're going to go through their experiences, right? So why are you comparing yourself to something that's not even real for you? You know?
Right.
So ignore that. Don't worry about that. You go back, like you said, get truthful and authentic with yourself, because that's the only way you can be authentic, is when you honestly express yourself, right?
Yeah, that's right. One of the things that happens when you're trying to be authentic is, and again, you know, each of these steps in the process of self-mastery is a huge topic on its own. So, you know, we can, you know, really expand on each of these. But one of the things about being authentic is that you don't become a wanker. Yeah. Right. And I'm going to have to say it because, you know, by being authentic, it doesn't mean that your way is the only way. Right. It means that you're honoring yourself, but the congruency, and you have congruency with yourself. But there is a third point, and I'm going to bring that up, and that's ecology. You have an ecology with your environment and everybody in it. So you create a win-win. You know, there is give and take, right? When in life, there's compromise in whatever you do. You can't always have everything your way. Everything can't be just about you. It's about everyone in it, right? And as a consequence, you know, it's about acting integrally, acting congruency, but acting with ecology as well. But you can do that nicely. Like I said, you don't have to be a wanker about it. You can be nice about it. I can be nice about, be kind, be compassionate about communicating, right? Remember,
that's the key thing you've just said there, Lax, because, you know, you said be, right? Because on one side, if you're acting, you're not really being authentic, isn't it? Yeah. So if you're being, like you're saying, if you're being it,
yeah.
You know, a nice analogy you have is when you teach in your classes, you talk about Bruce Lee saying, don't punch, be the punch, right? Yeah, it's right. When you're being it, you can't, that is you. That's a true expression of yourself. It's not acting, it's a pure, authentic doing and being, right?
Absolutely. And the beauty about this is you know, one of the first ever inspirational book I ever received from anyone was from my father-in-law, who actually is a published author himself. He's published a poem, and I guess, you know, unconsciously that stuck with me, and probably is one of the reasons that, you know, I ended up writing. You know, he gave me his copy of Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And, you know, in the end, you know, people have known about this all along. But it's part of your self-mastery is you being able to have that dialogue, that inner communication with yourself, so that you can have that with other people. Remember, like I said, I'm going to go back to this, right? If you don't mean what you say, you'll never say what you mean, right? And you'll have a constant inner battle. So, you know, honestly expressing yourself is really important. And that leads us on to step 7. And step 7 is be like water. And be like water is really, once all of those things, all of the steps that come before that are in alignment, then the idea is just start getting into the flow. Be like water, right? And the idea about being like water is, water doesn't attach itself to anything. It just keeps moving. But when water becomes stale, it becomes stagnant. Now we're taking the analogy of water and saying, okay, so how are we going to employ the properties and behavior of water in our life so that we can be fluid? Now, the ultimate outcome of being in the flow or in a peak state is that you are not attached to anything. We already spoke about learning the art of dying, right? About releasing the things that you're attached to, right? And then the ultimate outcome is to be in the flow, right? But when you're in the flow, and everybody's experiences at some point, you think something, bang, it just happens. And you think, wow, that was easy. That just happened. Man, you didn't even have to do anything, right? And whatever you did do seems insignificant compared to the outcome because it's so magnified in its outcome, in the result. And that's what being in the flow is all about, is you are surrendering to what is. There's a belief in who you are, what you are, how you do it, how you say it, and how you're being it. And then getting into the flow is just doing it. And it's about having that presence. So we talked about earlier about the past and being attached to, your sadness and your depression, the living in the future being about worry and anxiety. But living in the present is just being and doing. Just do you, right? And that's be that water. Okay, so flow, finding your flow. Number 8. Okay, so 8. All right. Step 8 is about what I call power side forwards. So this is now starting getting into you using the gifts that you've been given and recognizing those, but also using recognizing skills that you need to gain, upskilling in certain areas to get into the space that you need to be in to serve in the way you need to serve. All right. So this is you putting yourself in your position of highest strength, highest power, highest servitude. Okay. So what is that? Also, as part of this is about kind of revealing who you are. Right. And I'll talk about this when we get onto the self-realization aspect of things, but really it's about tapping into your true highest self. Okay. True, authentic high self. And, we have to be careful that a lot of people get caught up in goals. This is my goal, this is my success. And most of it's all bullshit, to be fair, because most of the goals are built around materialistic achievements. Okay, I want this much money, I want this car, I want this house, this boat, whatever it is, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'd also like to qualify that. There's nothing wrong with that, but that is not what it's all about. Kabir, it wasn't Kabir, give me a second, I wrote Mark Twain. He said, the 2 most important days in your life are, number 1, the day you're born. Number 2, the day you find out why. Okay. Now that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about why you're here, right? You could call it purpose, okay? But ultimately, why are you on Mother Earth? What have you come here to do? What have you come here to learn? What have you come here to evolve? What have you come here to ascend? And out of that, what lesson will you learn so that you can gift that to somebody else once you've discovered your gift, right? That's then your obligation to give it away. And like I did with self-mastery, self-realization, right? We're here talking about it, giving it away, and helping others like yourself to get into a place where you're tapping into your truest potential, right? And
Isn't it interesting, like what you said before about, when you start to ask those questions about being, like when you honestly express yourself and you're going inwards, right? And you're not now comparing yourself with anybody else, and you're living on that kind of authentic path. Now you're starting to, you got the ability now and to tap into your why. Like, why are you actually doing these things, right?
Yeah.
Because once you connect into that, now the meaning of everything just becomes just so much more. And it's not based on comparison. It's not based on somebody else. It's based on you, right? And your gifts, your authentic self, and your being, and what you bring into the world.
Absolutely. I think also to add to that, competition, I think, or being in a competitive mindset, and I grew up being very competitive. I think it's also an illness as well, by the way. I think there's healthy competition, right? And it's circumstantial as well. So if you're playing a sport, I get it, right? But there's a point where actually when you are authentically authentically being yourself, not even being yourself. Trying is not quite being there. Okay, trying is you're not going to do it. Trying is giving up. But being it, by doing it, is just to be yourself. And therefore, there is no competition, right? It's not because you think you're better than anyone else. It's just that you are serving in your highest capacity. You are being the best version of you and putting your best side forwards and giving the best of yourself to others. When you do that, then that's who you are. That's you serving in your highest light. As a, many spiritual masters will say to you, right, the highest service in mankind is serving others. You can only serve others when you've got something to serve, right? The question is, what is that thing that you're serving? And that is your why. Why are you here? When you know why you're here, that thing that you're serving will become clear. And then you give it, then you serve it. Okay. So that's why I always say, when you discovered your gift, you have got an obligation to give it away. Okay. So that's the power side forwards part of things. And then I'm going to go into the last step, which is step 9, which is staying ahead. Okay. And staying ahead is really about you understanding to be in flow and within the flux of the cosmos. You understanding your rhythm of your life, you understand, and then just being with it. There's a surrender that you have to have with it. If you try and control everything, guess what? You'll be hugely disappointed. A lot of people that I've met that have got mental illness suffer because of the attachment. The attachment gives them a sense of control. Right? Give up control and allow yourself to be vulnerable. Take ownership and responsibility for what's happening in your life and choose a new outcome, and then go through that process. In the end, just to swim in the ocean of consciousness. Let it be. Right? But that doesn't mean that you can't have a strategy on how you want to move through life. What rhythm you want to and what music you want to dance to in your life, and you may decide to change the music, so you might decide to move differently, but that's okay, because now you start to become playful with who you are and where your life is going.
It's like you're saying about it's almost like changing your perceptions, isn't it? It's like almost like looking at something from a different point of view in a different way, and just change the perception. And it's like trajectory. Even if you change something by 1 degree, by the time it gets to a certain distance, it's way off direction, right? So like going forward and change 1 degree, and by the time you get a mile ahead or something, it's going to be in a totally different direction. It's like perception change. It can change the trajectory of your life.
You know what? You are so right, and it is that simple. It is that simple. When you know how.
It's that simple in its complexity.
But Dan and Asante was one of Bruce's authorized teachers, and Dan asked Bruce. He said, describe your art, martial art, Jeet Kune Do. And he had a wallet, and he threw the wallet, and he caught the wallet, right? And he said, okay, right. So what was your objective? Objective was to catch a wallet. Okay, good. But you could have caught it this way, right? You could have caught it this way. You could have caught it with 2 hands. You could have moved to the left. You could have moved to the right, right? You could have squatted. You could have jumped and caught it, depending on how high it was, right? Either way, the objective is to catch it, right? That is it, right? It's just to get the end result. That's what counts, making it work. In addition to that, he said, the thing is, right? The thing about Jeet Kune Do is it's simple. The good thing about Jeet Kune Do is simple. The bad thing about Jeet Kune Do is simple. We make the simplest things. Our human mind makes the simplest things complex. Okay, it's got an innate ability to try and overcomplicate the most simplest things, right? For its own validity, I guess, right? Who knows? Nobody would ever really know why it's overcomplicating things, right? We've only got speculation. So really, it's ultimately about simplifying things. So, Bruce left his beautiful teachings that hack away the unessential. When you have a sculptor that has a big block of rock, or let's just say marble, he has to chisel away to reveal the sculpture of a beautiful lady or a handsome man or a child or whatever the person, the sculptor is trying to sculpt and bring out that. But that only happens by taking unessential parts of the marble away. And that's ultimately what we are trying to do in our life, is to really kind of reveal who we are in that block of marble that we are initially, that we can't recognize ourselves inside it. So that's kind of the mindset behind that. So coming back to staying ahead is, once you've kind of attuned yourself to who you are, then it's just living it, just being it. My son was 7 when we did a stillness retreat years ago. And JT, you'll remember this. We asked him a question. He said, what is the meaning of life? 7-year-old turned around and he said, living. One word. That is it. We can learn a lot from children, because they are the most simplest, practical, straightforward beings. All this overcomplication may be just be caused by the process of growing up and the process that we go through during our education, the education system, the environment. Who knows? There's many factors, a multitude of factors. But I could tell you one thing: if you want to hear a home truth, ask a young, innocent, pure, innocent child. Okay, that's untainted by traumas and sufferings in life, and you'll get a truth that will hit you right between the eyes, and it'll be refreshingly simple and liberating.
I remember that. I remember that when we were filming it, right? We asked that question, yeah, and he said it, and it was just like, the whole point of the workshop was all about stillness, right? And when we went there, he said it, we had a laugh and giggle, like, oh my God, he just said something so profound. And then there was a moment of stillness, isn't it? Like contemplation, like thinking, wow, we don't need to carry on with the rest of the workshop.
so yeah, that the story behind that was, we also asked him, he was, like I said, he was 7 at the time. We asked him the question, so what does stillness mean to you? A 7-year-old kid who's hyperactive, like got a lot of energy, right, cannot sit still. He sat still for, I would say, 2-3 minutes, didn't say a single word.
Yeah.
And we just looked at each other like gobsmacked, like I guess we got the answer, but we didn't kind of get the answer straight away. Until a while we thought, well, he's just being still, like he's just gone into that state and being it, and doing it, and that's it. And it was magical. So just learn from children. If you've got children, learn from them. They are our greatest teachers. Honestly, we can learn so much from them. And anything that you don't like about the behavior in the children is a reflection of something you did or somebody else in their environment did, that's just been thrown right back at you, reflected right back at you. And if you don't like something and you're in the immediate environment, then it's probably part of you. So you be careful what you do around children, because you have such a huge influence.
Definitely.
They're the 9 core stages of the self-mastery process. But then we've got the self-realization, and self-realization is really answering that question about who am I, and why am I here on this on Mother Earth? What am I here to do? And that, I call it your true, authentic, high self. And kind of discovering that, and then tapping into that true servitude is the highest point that you can be in and serve in. And there's a beautiful bit of writing by Sri Ramana Maharishi, and he was asked a question: how can I attain self-realization? And his response was, realization is nothing to be gained afresh. It is already there. All that is necessary is to get rid of the thought, I have not realized. Stillness or peace is realization. There is no moment when the self is not. So long as there is doubt or the feeling of non-realization, the attempt should be made to rid oneself of these thoughts. They are due to the idea of the self with the not self. When the not self disappears, the self alone remains. To make room, it is enough that objects be removed. Room is not bought from elsewhere. Okay. So I wanted to share that with you guys because, you know, what that's telling you in a nutshell is it's always been in you. Okay. Right. The answers have always been in you. The self has always been in you. Is it time? Are you ready to start to connect with that? That really is the point. That really is the main question. Have you decided to do that? And for all the things that you blame, for whatever's happened in your life in the past, right? This is your time to now take ownership for everything that's happened, every suffering that you've experienced in life, no matter how grueling, horrific it might have been, right? Is to take ownership and responsibility for your life right now. Only you can change you. Only you can change the outcome that's happening. Remember we spoke about earlier on, if you do the same thing, you get the same outcome. If you do something different, you get a different outcome, right? So that's the idea, right? If you don't like what's happening on a daily basis, then change it to create a new outcome. But what are you going to change? You have to decide, right? You have to decide and then go through that cycle of self-mastery and then see what happens.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Lex. I think that's like so amazing for you to share that, because it's like we said, when we in a certain situation, something happens, right? And it causes a situation, a scenario within ourselves. The reason we can't, or we feel stuck, is because we don't know what to do, right? We don't know how to deal with it or what that means, right? And the only way to figure that out is to then figure out a way to do it. But the way to do that is to actually learn, is to reach out, connect with others, you know, get new information inside your brain, right? Yeah. New ways of looking at things, because like we said, like whatever got you there is not what you have to use to get out of that. It's like what Lax was sharing, right? So, you know, bring in new concepts, new ideas, new information into the mind, and your life will change, because it's that thing, right? Whatever you can conceive and believe, you can achieve it. So if you conceive a new idea, like we might say, go get, you know, and read Lax's 9-step book, because what we've shared is just a tip of the iceberg, and there's so many more secrets inside the books, right? Like if you're like, okay, whatever, nothing's going to happen. But if you actually go and pick up the book, sit down, make some time for it, put these new ideas in your mind, right? It's almost a guarantee, yeah, that your life can change if you act on those things. Do you know?
That's right.
And I think that's an encouragement. And here's the thing: whatever we've done, we've kind of got ourselves into that situation, right? We're not talking about external forces and things which are outside of our control, but things that we can control, that are in our vicinity almost, right? That is stuff that we can actually take action on, and do something about, and you know, apply those simple things in life to make that change and shift.
That's right. And you know what? There's two things to add to that. That I'd like to add to that is, you know, we talk about the circles of influence. So you imagine, you know, you've got a circle, and then there's a circle outside of that is in, and then there's a bigger circle. You've got the inner circle is the circle of direct influence, things that you can influence directly. You've got the outer circle, or should I say the middle circle, which is the circle of indirect influence. Who do you need to speak to influence some outcome? And then you've got the circle that's outside of that, which is the circle of no influence. Now, it's really important that you invest your energy in the first two circles, and predominantly the first circle, your direct influence, right? Especially when it comes to self-healing, okay? Especially when it comes from taking yourself from a place of mental illness to a state of mental healthiness, okay? And so it's important to do that. Okay, and I can't remember what the second point I was going to make, but yeah, circles of influence was the first one. The other one's gone.
The second one is the mystery. That's the one we have to figure out, right? Is that what was the point? Stay with it, and you'll find it.
There was a second thing I was going to say, but I can't remember that. It just kind of gone poof. but no, you never know. It might come back. And yeah, so yeah, it's just change the things that you can control, and in your own life, taking ownership or responsibility. All right, I remember now. Okay, the second thing I was going to say was, um, everything that happens in our life, I'm a firm believer through my own experience and through my own understanding that there are agents of the universe. People will appear to cause you suffering in life, but as agents of the universe, right, they are your teachers that are helping you to reveal part of you that you have forgotten being born into this lifetime, to help you to understand and reveal the answer to the question, why am I here on Mother Earth? That suffering, look for the lesson in it, transcend the lesson, and you will have dissolved that lesson and moved on from there. That's your process of ascension, essentially. Okay, so anyone that's caused you suffering, the idea is to look at it in a whole new light. And if you look at it through darkness, you're only going to prolong the suffering. Look at it in a whole new light. Light being the keyword, okay? And when you see the light in that person's teaching, you'll one day realize, when you get further on and you turn back and you can connect the dots, you'll realize, aha, that's why I was being served all of that suffering, all of that trauma happened because I was meant to do this, this, and this to get me to this point. Okay. But you won't understand it now because you can't see the dots, because the dots haven't happened yet. But you've got to get further down that line and you turn back and be like, oh yeah, I can see all the dots now. Okay. So this is where faith is really important, right? So have faith. All right. That's number one. And the other thing I was going to say was, there is luck, okay, as involved as well, right? And there's several types of luck, okay? You talk about your luck as the way you're born, okay? Your cosmic imprint and the luck that, you have as part of you being you, born when you were born, where you were born, and so on. Then you have your environmental luck, the luck of your environment, right? If you live in an environment which has got really bad energy, guess what? Your luck's going to suck as well. As a consequence of that, I don't really know anybody that's had good luck when they've lived in a shitty place, okay? They've had to try and work their way out of it, right, in order to change their environmental luck, okay, right? And one of the things is, right, you can take somebody from a poor neighborhood, right, a neighborhood where there's high crime and so on, and put them in a good neighborhood where there's low crime and so on. Guess what? People change, right? Their behavior changes, right? There's loads of studies around that, right? Cognitive behavior, environmental impact on cognitive behavior, right? So you can change your environmental luck by changing the environment, right?
They say the biggest way to change somebody is actually to change the environment, right? I mean, take the army, for example. When you got in the environment, they completely change your environment just to create that change in you, right?
Change your environment, change your company, right? Because they're part of your environment, okay? But not your physical environment, but your social environment. So, they say, you become the people, you become the company you keep. So it's important to keep the company that you aspire to be in, aspire to be part of, and make way into that, right? Because you'll be surprised that if you want to be in a certain community, that people will welcome people with the right intention, okay, with the right energy, with the right attitude. But it means that you have to get yourself into that frame of mind in order to do that, okay? So, coming back to luck, you've got your own luck, you've got your environmental luck, okay? And then you've got the luck that you have by doing the actions that you do, right? So the luck on your actions, right? The luck on your environment are things that you can control. The luck that you're born with, what I call your cosmic imprint, you can't change that. That's your spiritual luck, right? It is what it is, right? So, you have to kind of, just have faith.
And that's not to confuse it with your situation or scenario. So, for example, if you are going through, a mental health issue or anything related to that, what we've seen, and is you could document these things are documented as well. Like you've seen situations where people who have you could say they suffered the most. Whoever's got out of that suffering has gone on to achieve the greatest of influence. All right, so sometimes we got to realize that as fortunate or unfortunate these things are, it's like maybe that's part of the journey. Maybe that thing is the thing is needed to accelerate somebody in life. We just don't know, right? But it's like, do we give up before we even know that, right?
Yeah.
And everybody goes through a challenge. Everyone. There's no situation or scenario when somebody hasn't gone through a challenge. And I know because I've been to workshops where, for example, people have opened up, right, and they're sharing their experiences. Now, if you can imagine a room of like hundreds of people and people sharing the experiences of the shit they've gone through, seriously, right, and you look at that, you realize that you're not alone, right? Everybody goes through something, yeah, and it's then do what you can from within to read books, connect with people, change your environment, like Lex is saying, yeah, change your circle of influence.
That's
right.
right.
And that like Lex was saying is something that you can actually work towards.
And your environmental luck you can change by changing your environmental energy. People generally have heard of feng shui, okay, but also there's the ancient Indian science of Vastu Shastra, right, which is the Indian feng shui essentially, okay, which is probably where feng shui actually came from, because a lot of the that science traveled around the world. So there you can change the energy environment, therefore you can change your luck as well. So if you're looking to cultivate your self-mastery, your environment is an important aspect of that. So just something for you to keep in mind, and take a holistic approach to creating a lifestyle change. This is you changing your life, changing the outcomes in your life, by cultivating mental health. And all I can say is I sincerely wish everybody have a tenacious curiosity and a wanton desire to cultivate self-mastery, and then move on to self-realization, because then we'll all be as sentient beings on Mother Earth, be putting our best side forward to look after one another and to look after our Mother Earth. And we will that way create a better world to live in. And I can only hope that is something that we're moving towards, and the work that we're doing is going to have that side benefit as a consequence of starting with ourselves. All right. So on that note, really, that's I'd like to close up on that one, because I think this self-mastery journey is a journey. It's not an outcome. It's not a destination. So do enjoy it, because once there's nothing else to learn, then it gets boring. Okay, so enjoy the process of cultivating, and enjoy the people, the wonderful people you meet on this journey. Now, people that will inspire, educate, and empower you, so that you can give that light back onto others. Right, and more importantly, for future generations to come, so that we can create a generation of children that are going to grow up to become leaders and custodians for our planet and our fellow human beings once we are long gone. Okay, so we can only do our bit, and I hope that this is going to set off that ripple in the ocean. So,
wow! And on that note, everyone, I hope you enjoyed that. We've gone into some depth in this conversation, and get the books, stay in tuned, and we'll chat to you next time. Thank you very much.